Hey there mechanics, I'm the Builder and today we're gonna be playing Wait, hold up. It looks a little bit different than what I'm used to. Well, let me explain. This is Scrap Mechanic 0.11 and we're gonna be going through this version today. All of the differences, changes, things that are different, secret things. Without any further ado, let's get right into that. And so we're starting right in the main menu, which does look kind of familiar if you have played versions prior to Survival's release. So of course we have the load game, which still finds all of my save games, even the ones that it cannot load because they are from after Survival. There is just no way it's gonna load them. Creating new games, which we only have one option, creative. Character switching. Options, which are basically the same as the old versions. Audio settings, graphics. There's also no FPS cap, so the only way to cap this game to 60 FPS is to use vertical synchronization. That's kind of a bummer for me. Anyway, let's create a brand new game. Let's start with the train world and call it 0.1.11. Hopefully, it's not gonna be mad at me for using DOS in the name. Hopefully. We can set it to private, which supposedly lets us give it a password. But after testing this actually doesn't do anything. We also have some settings for world, where you can set the max number of players. So if I set it to 1, only 1 player can join. 0 players doesn't mean that nobody can join. It still allows 1 player to join, which is the host. And here you can set limits for like how many thrusters you can have, how many banks per object you can have. We're gonna test these a little bit later. Well, time to create. Here we have the very old and quite nostalgic loading screen, which actually used to be in Survival release versions 0.4, and if I recall correctly, they changed it to the newer one that we have now in 0.5. Anyway, here we are. Hi mechanic, welcome to Scrap Mechanic Creative Mode. And it's all of the text that like you probably all just didn't read because you just pressed got it. That always appears. And here we are. In the glossy world of Scrap Mechanic 0.1.11. And generally any pre-contraption version. It's way glossier because of the settings that they have in Ogre. Though honestly, it looks kind of cool. It's kind of aesthetic.
Right, let's start off with checking out all our parts. I'll create a very quick gallery that I will load up both in this version and then compare it with the newer version so you can take a look yourself at how the game actually changed and how the art style changed. Right, let's get to it. I have no idea how tedious it is to move all these parts manually down to the bottom, as there's no shift clicking or like quick drag. I have to do it actually like one by one and drag from the top to the bottom. Oh god, certainly the quality of life improved a lot in later versions. Alright, expansion time! There isn't enough space simply. Holy, so many parts. Oh god, all these old version quirks. It's gonna be hard to actually delete due to SM being old SM, and the fact that I cannot drag past like valid block area, as otherwise it will just stop and not let me delete it. Yeah, as I have said, the quality of life improved a ton in the newer version that we have now. Like these old ones are actually like not really that good as in the controls department. We're gonna be like a 20-second segment of me just like quick placing parts. It's gonna be fun for you all, but for me this is like a really laborious process. Oh god, there will be at least like a few people watching this. So if you really like the fact that I'm putting all this effort into making this video, well, you can press that like button. Fun fact actually, if I didn't have other versions that I currently have, like the Survival pre-release, I would actually be unable to load this save up in newer versions. As ever since Scrap Mechanic changed from 32-bit to 64-bit, around that era, which is 0.5, the creative mode update, for some reason you can no longer load all these old saves. So luckily enough, I have the Survival pre-release, which does in fact open the save file and upgrade it to like format which modern Scrap Mechanic can actually read. So I'll actually be able to do a comparison between the old Scrap Mechanic right here, between this, and exactly in the same world between the modern version. Just come to appreciate at how many parts even this version had. Just placing all of this down, you can really see how much content there already was at this point. Alright, this is the home stretch. Just got a few plants to put in. There's this guy here, this guy here, this guy right here, why not? This plant pot right here, and you right here. And that is finally it. Those are all of the parts in this scrap mechanic version. Wow. Now it's time to actually build like a good lookout point in where I could actually spawn in the modern scrap mechanic version, that we can get a cool look at both of the versions and things that I have changed. I will also use one mod afterwards, so we have 3 comparisons between old scrap mechanic, today's scrap mechanic, and what scrap mechanic would have looked like if the developers were actually to update the game and remake a lot of the parts. We'll get to that in a second. Alright, so this is old scrap mechanic. And now, let's see how it looks in 0.7.5. Hey, I tricked y'all. We'll be playing modern scrap mechanic, of course, because we need to see how the models have changed. Yay! So I went through the process of porting the save file from the old version to this one, for which I have used the 0.4 pre-release, as that's one of the versions that actually it works with. I had to do some hackery. I'm gonna get into that until I'm gonna, investigate 0.4 pre-release. Eventually, you can subscribe and enable the bell if you really want to see that happen. I swear I'll do it, alright? They don't take like 5 years. Anyway, time for 1.11. So here is the save file, which I have updated. Should just load up. If I was to do this without 0.4 pre-release or any other version before 0.5, it wouldn't have loaded in. And yet, here we are. Alright, so here's the chair that I have placed, and this is how the game looks like nowadays. So let's get to comparing. First of all, of course, the plant pods have changed a lot, which you could have seen this in the dev blog that was released before Soil actually itself released. Other than that, a lot of these parts are very similar, like these pipes, which actually haven't been changed at all. But for example, these guys, these cylinders have gotten pipe fittings and just a few more panels on them and stuff. Of course, you have the redesigned seats, which now have a lot more detail and all. Radio is more beaten up. Suspensions now have the springs paintable instead of the sport one having the base paintable. Signs are almost the same. These parts are the same. These two have changed, and we also have a brand new support structure, which is a small one, which is half of this one. And then that this light is actually not an interactive light. Reason is that older versions didn't have dynamic lighting, so as you can see, I cannot press E on it. However, if I place a real light from the modern era, it just works, and it has no connection dot either. So it's kind of a rare shape to have in your world. Same with these seats, but those aren't as rare as these are the creative seats. So you can see I cannot press U to upgrade, unlike if I place a brand new seat. So we have the sensor, which again is the creative sensor. Same with all these engines and the thruster. Next up, we have the wheel redesign, which was already done in 0.2.0, which was the engine update. Yet most of this seems very similar, except again the air conditioner, which had a visual update, and this was actually before 0.2 even. Well, so this is how it looks like in normal scrap mechanic today. But now, let's see how it looks like if the parts were to be remade. So for this, I'm gonna be using the great scrap mechanic parts remake, created by none other than Illumina. She's a very, very cool modeler that creates mods for scrap mechanic and helps on them as well. So first of all, we can see that these pipes were updated to be way more rounded, so they look more like the newer survival parts. And honestly, this just looks much better. Same with these pipes, which are more round and everything. Even the plates have been changed to be more like modern scrap mechanic and have the frame paintable and everything. We also have changed block textures to be a lot better and have more detail in them. As you can see, the concrete now looks like a real concrete actually, with the defects and everything. Metal was updated as well. All the other leveled parts were also updated. For example, metal block 3, which now looks like this. We also have to change cardboard boxes, which look amazing. Like, look at these. They are no longer just plain cubes. That's all I wanted to show. It's just that this mod does a lot to improve the visuals, so I can recommend it. As such, I put the download link into the description if you feel like downloading this mod for yourself and trying it out and seeing how stuff looks, and even if it improves your builds or anything like that. And while you're there, feel free to comment on what I should try in 0.1.11 or any other scrap mechanic version that I'm going to be covering later on. Anyway, now back to 0.1.11, and it's time to build ourselves a car. And I'm not gonna be the only person that's gonna be building the car. For that purpose, I have brought the maker of particles from some very well-known mods, and also maker of very obscure mods that use custom audio. And that one person is Donut.
Hello everybody, my name is Donut.
Do you like donuts?
Yes.
Alright, we like donuts.
Enjoy me some scrap mechanic trivia, like the old version, 1.11.
Guys, I think this is the wrong donut. I think he kind of talks like an NPC. I feel like we should proceed over to that platform to build the car, or do we build it here and that'll be our goal? I think we should proceed to the platform.
I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the platform. I think we should proceed to the plat
A short while of proceeding later. And we're right here.
Alright, let's begin construction of the car.
So, how do we do it? Do you want to be the design enthusiast that's gonna actually like build the visuals? And I guess I can build the base?
Yes.
Sure. Why does the metal block look like concrete? Alright. So, of course, we need a building block, bearings, driver seat. Do we do suspension? Are we gonna be fancy?
Yes, we're gonna be fancy.
Alright, fancy suspension, big wheels because that's fun. Alright. Is that good?
Yes.
So, left-hand drive because we're European, right? So that's what most of Europe uses.
Every respectable car needs a proper gear shift.
Where did you get that?
Sources of unknown origin.
And of course, this is ducking amazing. Yeah, that was perfect. Alright, well, time to make this car actually drive. So I'll cut the front piece a bit. You're able to do the designing in a second, alright? I'll just make sure that everything is fine and ready for, you know, some stuff.
Of course. Driving comes first.
Let's do small suspension because this is very, very long and a long travel probably won't be that good, actually. Actually, let's be fancy and use some pipes, right? Well, we don't have the small pipes. That's one of the things, again, because those were added way later on. So we're just gonna use these pipes. Alright, now with proper spacing between the wheels, I'll actually be able to make a decent car, probably. That looks weird.
And of course, the non-working lights.
Of course, there's no weld tool, so we gotta do it one block at a time.
Very fun.
Yeah, very fun. If I actually then put this wall back a bit and not put it that high up, it should be fine, technically speaking. Old scrap mechanic, oh my god. When you drag delete blocks, it really... Great job, right?
Blended.
At least we have a trinket. Well, that went well. Because we have no weld tool, this is gone. This part is useless, but we shall leave it
For historical purposes.
there. Let me just put it on the lift real quick. Alright, so now let's build the car correctly. Without any major skill issues, which are bound to happen anyway. Right, we're both great mechanics, we have 0 skill issues.
Yes, 300 hours in the game, barely beat a tutorial.
And honestly, like, this game probably gets like a 7 out of 10 or something, right?
Yeah. Didn't even get 3000 hours. Didn't even get to the final boss yet.
Why does this game end, right? I couldn't even reach the ending.
They say there is some kind of trash bot involved. Never found a...
Some kind of a thing like, I don't know, like what do they call it? Survival? I wonder when that's gonna release, right?
I don't know. I think it's never coming out.
Yeah, I actually could be kind of wondering how it will feel like in the future, right? Unknown exception.
Uh-oh.
I got an unknown exception. Oh my god, guys, can you believe this? We got the holy car.
Yes. Also, interestingly enough, my inventory has been reset.
Oh, wait, are we screwed? Is this car just stuck in the air? This car is officially stuck in the air.
I think it's the prop joints which are for steering.
How did this happen? Wait, so what is stuck now? The tailgate is stuck. No?
The pipe pieces, because they are separate bodies. Angled pipe pieces.
Scrap mechanic, you beautiful piece of...
Software.
We lost the light in the front. Alright. Well, let's hope we're not gonna have any unexpected things happen anymore. And as I say that, oh boy, I'm stuck dragging nothing with my connector tool, and there it goes, finally. You cannot close GUIs by pressing escape, you have to press the X button in there. Great stuff. How is it looking like on the back?
Oh, very well. We are ready to load cargo.
Are you pressing the button? Remove the lift to use this switch?
Yeah, that's unused now.
Oh wow, that was really a thing back then? I have a single problem with your solution to the back end. Where do we place the wheels with the suspension? Yo, look, the body is changing. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. There. Alright. See, and this is why the design team has to work with the mechanics team, you know?
Yes, because the important part is always communication.
And if you don't do that, your game is probably gonna die out eventually. Or your project. I wonder if there's like anyone who doesn't follow that guide, right? I still really hope that survival is gonna happen for this game though. I'm gonna hope that the wheels are gonna be fine and we're gonna be dragging a lot. Alright, are we ready for drop-off? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, suspension was probably a bad idea. Because this guy is heavy as your and the suspension isn't adjustable, it's fully compressed. What do we do with this donut? Do we remove the suspension?
I guess.
Alright, let's engineer out our flow. Funny sounds. Wait, are they actually fully 3D?
Yeah.
Oh my god, they actually fully work. Holy crap.
It's very saddening that they are broken in the current version.
Yeah, they'll be super useful for like certain people that like do videos and stuff. I wonder if we're ever gonna be like one of those people actually gonna be popular enough to like, you know, like have like very popular videos, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That can never happen. Damn nice sound. So this was kind of useless. I can just put the wheel here, and there is no need for any of this. Nice and compact, easy peasy lemon squeezy, and I put it too low. Oh yeah. When engineering goes correctly, of course stuff is gonna be, you know, fully done and properly made. There'll be zero issues and everything. That never happens, and as such you get left off. Nice. Left off with stuff like this, and unfinished software, unfinished hardware, unfinished builds, and mechanical things.
Yes.
Well, there is a reason why there's a procedure called testing or something, right? Or like early access, right?
And playtesting.
I feel like we should move this front a little bit more forward. Yeah, I'll probably move a little bit more forward.
Sure.
Well, and now it's time to replace parts. Dismantling time is actually faster in this version a little bit. I don't think I actually feel, but I think it's a little faster.
It is actually quite a bit faster.
Alright, now let's make this wedge gang approved. How is that gang called? I don't know. They're probably not relevant, right?
Probably.
Probably not. Yeah.
Why would you be a fan of wedges in 26?
Yeah. Oh my god, you are a robotics expert. You actually made the bed open. Ooh. Fancy. Though, I feel like the controls are not really that powerful, right? Like, there will be nobody that will actually make anything more complex than, like, you know, like doors and stuff with it, right?
Never.
Yeah.
Why would you make a transformer?
Yeah, because, like, especially if you cannot even save your builds and share them with anyone. You don't have videos. Anyway, I feel like it's probably time to go for a ride. So, what are your predictions? Is this car gonna drive well, or is it gonna be, not too good?
I think it's gonna be just fine.
Alright, let's see. It is actually fine.
Wow.
That was unexpected. So, we can go back to this place. Yeah, it actually drives where I pointed to. Do you want to try it as well?
Yes.
Sure, alright, driver change. What happened to my arm?
I think you're just kinda itching.
Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. DNC, this game has 0 bugs. This version is just better than what we have currently, right?
Yes.
There's just no way. Oh, there's no way.
Indeed, there is no way.
Yeah, there's a jump way, but I don't think we can take it. Bonk. Do you want to go for an adventure and explore the world?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Oh wait, there's a field of corn. And we flip over as that happens. Well, it technically should have never happened because this car is completely perfect and there are no ways to improve it. All these trees are so static.
And so big.
Oh, look. It's the corn. I wonder what the corn is gonna be used for.
Probably like making popcorn with thrusters.
Yeah, I'm at least hoping it will never have a collision or anything, right? That cannot happen.
Yeah, and I cannot wait to farm some cucumbers.
Yeah, I like cucumbers. They're quite tasty. Especially like refreshing because it's like, you know, it feels like water and stuff. It feels that way.
Also, you can notice that in this version, the grass actually properly fades in and out, instead of appearing in square chunks.
Excluding the fact that it has way lower render distance, which cannot be really changed. I will have it on the max settings.
Yes, that is a downside. And here we are at World Border.
Look, there is a tree.
Outside.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I wonder how it feels like to be outside of the fence, right? Maybe there's a world type that will let us be there. I don't know. I don't know what are the chances. Well, hopefully we're gonna find out eventually. Because this whole world seems like pretty simplistic at this point.
Yes.
now we have the multiplayer segment with Here Donut.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. We'll do more stuff later, you know it.
Yeah.
I expect to see him later on as well. Alright, see ya then. It's time to move on to the secret things that this game version has to offer. There are many interesting things that are hidden in the files, which you have probably not known about. Well, let's get to it. So first of all, I'm gonna be starting with a thing that's less of a secret, but more of a thing that you probably never use. And that is settings on creating the world. So let's set a maximum of thrusters 3. We will allow 0 electric engines and only 2 controllers. And at max 5 bearings per object. So first of all, we have a limit of maximum 5 bearings per object. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I cannot add another one. We have the limit of 0 electrical engines, which means I cannot place one at all. Then we have the limit on thrusters, for example. And now we have all 3 thrusters that I've been limited to. So these settings do actually work. They're actually very useful. So yeah, there are a little bit more settings that should have been, in my opinion, carried over to modern scrap mechanics. While I'm still in the game, there are even more things that I can still show you that you haven't seen yet. For example, if we do /help in the chat, we can see that there are a few available commands. We will start off with /wad, which is a very weird command. As you can see, it hasn't printed anything to the chat. However, now, if I look into my drive where I have this game on, which is my D drive, we will see that it created a new WAD file, which if we open is now basically empty, nothing, nada. If I try to type in something like stuff and then look into the file, and for some inexplicable reason, it'll also be created in the release folder where the scrap mechanic exe is. And again, it's gonna be null. This is a very weird command and I honestly have no idea why it even exists. Alright, next one is /debug. This command gives you all of debug information. The information here on top left, that is your console, technically speaking. However, there is no modding support, so I cannot really print anything into it. But if I was to then look into the log files, it will have the same output as shown here. It also shows us extra info, like where am I aiming, the time it takes for the audio engine to actually do stuff, how many rendering batches are required, what build of game I have, what's my position, my velocity, FPS, what I'm focusing at, which doesn't seem to work, what button I'm pressing, how long the physics calculations are taking, what rotation I have on the block grid, how much data is sent between the server and the client, how many triangles it's currently rendering, and everything like that. Next we have /list textures, which shows you all the textures that are currently being rendered and their respective size in kilobytes that they take up in the VRAM. Then another command which is pretty cool and I really wish was still in the game is /polygon mode. This is basically wireframe. So this is wireframe rendering, and we can see how the game is actually rendering everything, including the grass and all of our shapes, a gas engine with colored polygons, which is super useful for seeing how complex your meshes actually are in context of the game. Then we have /reload, which reloads the current game instance, as such reloading the Lua scripts, the 2 Lua scripts which we'll talk about later, and supposedly even reloading shape sets and stuff so that we don't have to reload the whole game. Alright. Then we have /setName, and we can put in anything to call myself something. So now my name is this, so if I chat in here, that's my new name. And of course even support special stuff, so if I do /setName and the color code, because this game uses my GUI, my name is currently set to the builder and it's red. It's still a bit too long though for the game chat, but as you can see, this will be actually pretty useful, because nowadays it just copies your Steam username. And last, and actually the least, /time, which then if I type in something, it'll prepend the current time. Anyway, those were the commands. Now onto the stuff in the game files.
So we'll be starting with blocks and parts that were actually hidden from the inventory. Alright, so first of all, we're in the game files. The structure looks very familiar if you are familiar with modern scrap mechanic, it's just that we only have one game mode being creative. Anyway, so we navigate into data, objects, database. If we look into shape sets, we can see that all of them are actually loaded up, even consumable.json. What is this file? This is a JSON file and it contains comments, which Notepad++ doesn't have. You can see this is the ink ammo. So if we uncomment it, we now have one more part in our inventory, which we'll check on later, because there are more things. For example, if we go back up, here we have basic materials.json, which those are our blocks. It's called basic material for some reason. So if we scroll down here, we see more commented out blocks, insulation, and indestructible block, and spaceship block, which say that they are block bricks. So let's go and check them out inside of the game. Alright, so we're back in the game, and for this I'll create a brand new game just to be sure that I don't interfere with my old world in any way. Alright, and now if we look at our inventory, we got a few new parts. Here we have the indestructible block and the insulation block, which has the brick block texture. So if we place them, this one is extremely reflective. It's very funny how it reflects the terrain surface instead of the flat surface. Seems like they only have a single cube map used. As for the insulation, yeah, it just looks like bricks. Texture wasn't present yet. If you remember the old mod pack and stuff like that, those had the old insulation block. There is another one. Here we have the spaceship block, which this one was again in the old mod pack. Apart from that, we got another new part, which is this ID 900, and it's the ink ammo. We have this in survival nowadays, because paint tool actually requires it. Though, you might be curious, why do we have the paint can while we don't have a paint tool? Well, let me show you that we actually do have a paint tool. In order to actually show you the paint tool, we will need to edit a few layout files. So we'll go to data, GUI, and here there is no layouts folder, it's just all in this one folder. So we will scroll down until we see inventory.layout. I'm going to be using mygui.net to open these files, which is my own GUI editor. It isn't released yet, but eventually it will be. I'll put a link in the description if I don't forget when it's going to be released. One more thing to say, it's made for modern scrap mechanic, so it doesn't really do well with old SM. As you can see, the text is messed up and the skins look like modern scrap mechanic. Apart from that, here if you look down here, we can see we have hex color edit box, but its visible property is set to false. If we set it to true, it will now show up in the game. We can also do that with this reload button. Now I'll save the layout. So now if I open my inventory, I have a brand new text box right here. You might be wondering, how is this connected with the paint tool? Well, this was called hex color. If you don't know, hex is one of the ways of storing colors and allows us to basically display any color. So if I leave it empty like so, and I place a block, it's gonna use the default color. However, if I put in a different color like FF0000, now suddenly the blocks are red. This actually works with every single other part I'm currently gonna be placing, which funnily enough makes this more universal and gives you more options than our current paint tool. However, the only problem is that if you want to recolor blocks, you have to replace them. Alright, there are more secret things to show here with the GUIs and everything. You know how the controller has this loop? But did you actually know that there is another mode? So we are once again back in the game files. We'll go to data, GUI, and now we need to find the controller layout. It's a time joint controller actually. Let's open with mygui.net once again. And here we can see that there are no icons here. However, they actually are there. The problem is that these use image boxes and point to an image texture, which Magnet doesn't load as it's not in the current game files. But here you can see we have the loop that's visible. And then there is a thing next to it. What is this? Bounce? The image texture is back and forth and it's visible false. If I set it to true again and save the layout and then go into the game, we can see what the bounce mode actually does. Now that we're back in SM, we have our same controller. Let's see what the bounce mode does. These are connected, I'll put it on this bearing. So now we have a brand new thing, which is this guy. So if we do a rotation 90 degrees, for example. So let's see if it works. As we can see, this mode is actually broken in this version. Now, let's go on to the other secrets, which could actually be pretty fun for people that know a thing or two about modding. Alright, I'm back in my file explorer. So the thing I'm exactly talking about is that because this version is before the official mod support was actually released all the way version 0.2.1, which was the very first version to actually have official mod support. And so, in this version, most of the things are hard-coded within the game exe itself. It's not possible for us to easily modify their behavior. If we look into data and character, we can see that there are two Lua files. Let's see what they have to offer. Firstperson.lua. This file is used to bind held items to tools, which basically means that it tells the game, oh, if you hold this item, show this in the hand. In the end here, it actually binds the tools. So we can see that connect to equip is right here and has all of these three animations, equip, unequip, idle. And this is the ID of the shape or the tool or anything else. The interesting stuff is that the handbook is 20,005 while there is the gap. You can guess what tools were actually going to be added into the gap. So what fun stuff can we do here? Well, we can make any item a tool. Let's do the funny thing. Now if you have scrap mechanic, 0.1.11, we should see that this toilet paper becomes a handbook once I actually equip it. Alright, let's see it. So let's scroll down and find toilet paper. It's right here. What happens when I scroll over to it? Suddenly I'm holding the handbook. Until I'm not, because the crowbar actually overrides it. Some interesting stuff, right? But that's not the only other Lua file we can mess around with. There is another one, so let's see what that one does. So we are back. Here we have the handbook.lua, which is a very simple file which just lets us change how the hands in the first person are actually placed. What if I give it some extra offset on the y-axis? Sure, you become 0.5. Alright, let's see what this does to the game itself. So now we have done that, let's hold the tool. Oh wow, look at that. Now the hand is moving a lot.
This is actually a pretty fun thing. Well, but that's about everything that we can actually do with these Lua files. It is just setting which items are tools, while hand bobbing for some weird reason. I'm guessing this was only added so that the developers could test the Lua implementation later on when they were actually going to add mod support and stuff. So that's probably why this is even a thing. So that's about it for this 0.1.11 video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. And next up, I'll be going on to a more modern version. It will be version 0.1.32. which is officially the latest version that still uses this old Ogre engine. So I really hope you enjoyed this video as the UI builder, and I hope to see you soon. See you guys!